today. Lee's referring to our deep efforts on the regional drive market, which is, I think you know from the many years we've appeared before you, that's kind of our bread and butter here. And that's a very durable market for us. Even when international is down, regional drive, hyper-local regional drive is very strong for us. So our two biggest drive markets are going to be Phoenix and Denver, and then Dallas and some other places are third and fourth and on beyond that. But what we've learned is that Phoenix is durable for us about 10 months out of the year. So we invest a lot of time, energy, and money going to the Phoenix travel shows and speaking one-on-one with about 20,000 people that want to come through this area and making sure that they remember to stop here as they pass through. Because typically this region, especially this county, is a pass-through to the other places in the state they're headed, but we're capturing about 50 to 60% of those travelers with one night's lodging at a minimum every time they come through, coming and going. So it really pays. We did the same effort with the regional drive market in Denver. That show was in early March, if I remember correctly. Had about 25,000 engagements up there, so a lot of vibrancy. What we love to celebrate is the fact that the international market is stronger than the media might be currently reporting, and I'm not trying to get political with it, but the reality is we're down about 15% right now on international travel. That is not unusual, and that's not the 30 to 40 to 50 to 80% that people were predicting. Because Mesa Verde Country also operates and administers our Colorado Welcome Center, we talk to these people every day. I've talked to more people from Canada this year than I have in the last 3 years combined. So the smart travelers say, okay, if this is going on, it's going to be to my benefit as a traveler. The prices are down and they're going to come down and spend that time and money. So a lot of our local lodgers from Mancos to Cortez, yes, and even in Dolores have indicated that their May so far was 16 to 30% higher occupancy and revenue than they've had previously or that they anticipated. And we're very happy to hear that. If anybody happens to drive through the area maybe at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, as I did this last Saturday morning, from McElmo Canyon all the way to the Mesa Verde Motel, there was not one open parking space. You couldn't get a car in any of these lodging establishments, and that's really good. Looking at the license plates, it's mostly regional drive and a fair number of rental car, which is probably some domestic travel, but some international too. So we're very excited about that, and we're here to predict, as much as we're able, a very strong, a very viable, and a very durable year for lodging, and a great year for the lodgers' tax as well. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, this could be one of the best years that we've ever had. And I will be happy to report back to you gentlemen when that time comes and hopefully be able to celebrate that with you.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
I'm sorry, Lee. I get a little excited.
I know. Yeah.
Sorry.
We're on target, long story short. Yeah. So we're looking again at having about the same amount of dollars, maybe a few more if it continues. I guess we should get to the recommendations. We had to pair off around 55,000, and that took a little bit of discussion. The first one, though, on that list, the finish line racers, they came with a request of $3,000, and they're building this dirt bike event and so forth, and I guess we got a famous person here that is, you mentioned his name?
Mr. Tomac?
Mr. Tomac, yeah. If you mention his name, everybody goes gaga. So, and they have quite a backing, and I think, what was it, last year, they wanted for us to fund almost the whole thing, and we said no. We couldn't recommend that to the commissioners, and so they came in and they had a promotional team present the program, and hopefully they're going to bring in a lot of tourists. We hope. But we only gave a little bit of, we only recommended a little seed money to go along with their proposal. And with the next one, the Montezuma Heritage Museum, we know that they have different funding sources, so we didn't recommend beyond $10,000. And then with the Mancos Chamber, and I should probably also mention the Dolores Chamber, we recommended almost their request. And we feel that they are good partners with Mesa Verde Country and bringing in the tourists. And then with the Galloping Goose, they have a strong outreach for funding and ways to achieve their budget, and so we only recommended half of what their request was. We didn't fund them last year when we had to do a lot of pairing, but we have a lot of things going on with Mesa Verde Country in the sense that they partner with the ads and
Oh, absolutely.
and other programs. As I go down the list here, the Ute Mountain Rodeo they went up from $2,500, and we all know they never asked for more than $2,500, but they doubled it this year, and they're really a go-to event in the area. So we would request that they receive the amount they asked for. And aren't they gonna do some more, what I'm thinking about?
They're doing a little youth outreach for sure, so yes, sir.
Yeah, a little more outreach to the different demographics. Okay, and with the Mancos Creative District, they are taking on more and more things like that are current in Mancos, and I'm not so sure about that building they want to fund and buy as part of the Creative District. But we didn't recommend anything. This is just for their programs because they want to buy the Opera House. That's a big nut to crack.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
So we looked at their budget, and we wish them luck, but the $16,000 we recommended is for, the programs that are there, like the Barrel Fest and so forth. But we didn't get into some of the literary things they want to do because they got a pretty strong following there. And the Cortez Cultural Center is one of the main things that lodgers like because they can send their guests to the dances, and we only and we put it in capital letters. You did, Brian, didn't you? Put it in capital letters for the dances. That's what the lodgers like. Okay. We didn't get into their funding of their Bird Fest and all those things. That's a different stream of income. And last but not least, Mesa Verde Country, we kept that static. The request, Brian is basically a one-man show and keeps expenses down, but to promote the area, it takes a lot of travel. And so I think we mentioned something once before. All of these funds are for immediate use, and we only had $271 left for carryover. So anyway, I think we did a decent bit of work on vetting these programs, and I think they're a credit to what we want to see happen with the revenue stream from the tax lodgers. Any questions?
I actually have some questions.
Okay.
So with the VRBOs, the Airbnbs, we're still getting all of our money from the state back now that since we
Right.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, since we sent in that documentation.
Yeah, we get that in December.
Have those grown significantly here, Brian?
They're starting to, Commissioner. It's a matter of reporting, which is something that we try to work on. We're not the tax police, but we do try as a friend and as a colleague to advise people the right thing to do. A lot of them are doing it. It's a multi-year effort. It usually takes 2 to 3 years to convince them from inception to where they finally sign up and do the proper thing.
Yeah.
That is growing, and of course there are some more of those opening up in the county as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, in this year's legislation, you guys, I'm probably pretty sure aware of that Plata County ran a ballot initiative, and we supported it for, and actually it made this 6% for the lodger's tax. There are some variables in there a little bit broader than what we have had in the past.
Yeah.
It can go up to 6%. Now, obviously, it has to be put on a ballot and it has to be approved by the voters. But what's your opinion on that?
La Plata County and Durango has got a lot of people like diving into that pot, and they have a lot of squabbling going on, if I can use that term,
Yep.
to divide it up.
Well, we would be the ones to set it. So if
Okay.
we decided, because a couple of those were taken out of the final bill.
Okay.
The final bill that was signed, I think childcare was taken out. I think public safety was left in. I'd have to pull the bill back up, but I mean, just in
Yeah.
overall terms, are you guys, what do you think? I mean, 1.9% is still pretty marginal, where
Yes.
most other largest taxes are, specifically inside the municipalities, is much greater.
True. Well,
May I?
Yeah.
If
go
I
ahead.
may, Commissioners, please, I'd just like to say that we believe that it's very much like a resort fee or other fees that people encounter when they're traveling. They don't really see the line between counties, or much even less between cities sometimes. And so we've learned that if we have a consistent tax rate, that actually helps us, and we can ride the coattails of a great area like Durango and help us become closer to what we choose to be at some point in time as well. I would advocate very heavily to match the amount of tax that they're charging for this area, only because as things grow, that's going to make sense for us, and the travelers are not going to be resistant to that. And this is a tax that's only paid when you check into a hotel or
Correct.
a lodging facility. So
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think right now the cap is 2%.
it is 2%. Yes, sir.
So-
It has never been worth it to go for that extra 0.1%. So yes, sir.
So now it is 6%. I was just curious what your guys' thoughts were, because we would have to decide whether or not we put that on the ballot in November or not.
Yes, sir. I
Right.
appreciate
True.
you asking about that. And just to answer your question fully, we would advocate heavily and ask that it would go on the ballot if that's possible, please.
Okay.
Because the longer we wait, the further behind we kind of get
Yeah.
of everybody else.
Okay, that was all I had, Commissioner.
That it?
I just want to commend you on your research. That's a good amount of research into these organizations, and your balance is well justified.
Okay.
And Brian, I hear you on the radio. You cut a good ad, buddy. That's
Thank you,
all
sir.
right.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You don't shut up.
I don't shut up. That's the problem. They know.
Commissioner,
They know.
do you have
Okay.
anything to add?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, we'll make a decision on this tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think that's all we have.
Yeah,
Unless you guys have anything else?
no.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, gentlemen.
Thank
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, next up, we'll have a grant request for CPW, Mr. Underwood.
There he is. There.
Right here. Okay, go ahead, Kirk.
Turn on your mic, please. Pull it close.
I apologize. I'm not really well informed about this. I know we've been working on this for a couple of years, and I've been working on some other projects for the team. But this is a grant that we have been working on. I believe Travis has helped us with that, and Mr. Dobre, and so we are requesting.
So it's just got a TBD right now, which I'm familiar with this. This is just a CPW grant. I think this is like
Yes.
an annual grant,
Yes.
typically through CPW.
Yes.
So I don't know what the award amount is or what the ask is, but
I think CPW gives you what they want to give you.
Correct.
So it's-
It's correct? And so basically, we're just going to be a pass-through for this grant.
Yes.
By statute, it has to be county or the sheriff.
okay.
So they
So
they
we
might
don't
give
even
you
have a number?
5,000, 50,000, or $5, who knows?
So,
Right.
so this is a little leery. So you put we're requesting a grant. I'm seeing Bobby over there shaking. Yeah, I like this. I'm coming in next with the TBD. I can see it already out there. You guys approved $150,000.
Well, if track
So-
record means anything, there won't be nearly that much.
Track records don't mean anything.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is usually like 10 grand or something. Does that sound right? It's pretty minimal,
It's very minimal.
if I
very
remember
minimal.
Are they
right.
gonna have
Yes.
any money
'Cause
after paying out?
I
Wolf-
think they
Wolf
take their
liquidation?
25-cent fees or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then they distribute it across the state, and
Yeah.
so
Correct.
So we'll put a little bit more into this, but we'll look at the last 2 years, and I want to say it's a pretty minimal grant.
It's right, it's kind of after all the other expenses are covered, if there's anything left, then they allocate to teams.
Per region, yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So we'll just state that TBD is probably a very minimal amount, under 5. I gotta say this very cautiously.
Okay.
Somebody's looking at me with,
This is CPW, not health.
not CDPHE.
Yeah.
It's one of those 4-letter acronyms. This is just a 3-letter acronym. So,
Okay.
okay, yeah, we'll look at it, and I want to say from my memory, it's about 10 grand. It's not, maybe it was even 8 grand. But we'll
It's-
find that out.
Yeah.
It's varied pretty significantly over years.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll look at this tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you,
Kirk.
Kirk. Kim Percell and Jerri Frizzell will not be in this afternoon. They're short staffed, so they have punted until next week. We are going to now go to secure rural schools allocations.
Did you mean to skip
I did.
Bobby Locke?
I did. It's my meeting, I can run it.
Yes, sir. Hear me out.
Because this is going to take very little time. Basically, did you get the numbers? Because what we agreed on with the schools is they were going to split it a third, a third, a third. And we were going to give them our 50% discretional allocation. So the only thing that we would be given to Road and Bridge would be the 25%, and the other 75% would be split a third, a third, a third. So there it is, $8,912.91 to each school district, RE1, RE6, and RE4.
So the graph is in front of you, gentlemen?
And
Yep.
there it is. We'll make that decision tomorrow, but that was pretty much agreed upon by all the school districts at our last meeting. Okay, anything else? Questions? Okay, now I'll go to the back to my agenda and public health. The epidemiology and laboratory capacity for infectious disease grant.
Correct.
Ms. Locke.
Hence why it's shortened to ELC. It's kind of long.
Gosh, can
So-
you expand that, Travis?
So this grant, I was all set to come to you in April for this grant. And then the pause was put on federal funding, because this is federal funding that comes through CDPHE. So they have since then said that we can apply for this again. And the time frame of this is still the same period. It's basically 8 months. It's from August 1st of this year to April 30th of next year. It's an extension of, we already had the ELC 2.1, 2.2, and now this is 2.3. So this is from COVID dollars. This is, what we are going to use it for here is what we've been using it for is our EpiTracks, which is our database, the new system that the state has put in. We had a system called CEDARS. Now we have EpiTracks. That's where all the communicable diseases, infectious diseases are logged into, and that's where we do all of our documentation. It's been a huge process for the state to learn the system, to transfer everything in. They just recently were able to transfer the tuberculosis process into there. So it's kind of an ongoing learning and adapting. So they're giving us another 8 months of that. It pays, that's how we're using the funding, for data modernization. That is one of the allowables under this funding. We're not using it for COVID vaccine. We're not using it for anything specific to COVID. It's all about infectious diseases. So it's paying for, basically, there's 2 nurses, myself and one other nurse, who do this work for the most part, and it's just paying a portion of our hours. So that's where we came up with the $54,138. So Any questions?
Question?
No.
Okay. After you guys make a decision tomorrow, as soon as you make that decision, if you could, because we're past due to sending this in, just because we couldn't get in front of you guys. So once it's done, if you could let us know and make sure Kim gets it to me, then I can send it to the state,
You'll know in the
And
morning.
the
And
budget
then
and
it'll
everything.
come in a DocuSign after that? Because I'm sure they're probably ready to send it out immediately.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, I don't know that anything's immediately happening at the state right now. So I think it might be a little bit of time till you actually see the document, but it should be pretty quick because this starts August 1st. So,
Okay.
anyway. Okay.
On another note, didn't I see La Plata County had a measles case? Or was it San Juan County, New Mexico?
Yes, San Juan County, New Mexico.
Okay.
Yes. I do not believe the La Plata counties were confirmed. There was
Okay.
one that was outstanding. I don't think that's been confirmed. There'll be more information coming out this afternoon,
I
though.
thought it was Archuleta County.
Oh, yeah, that was,
they had one.
yeah,
Gillette did have one.
right. But that there's more information coming out this afternoon, not specific to La Plata County, but for
Okay.
the state of Colorado. So, any other questions? No? Okay. I don't know, can I ask about I got your email, Stephen, in regards to the
Yeah.
Dolores County. So is that going to be discussed tomorrow?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
didn't put it on the agenda for the
Right.
workshop today,
Right,
but we put it on the agenda for tomorrow.
Okay.
What we're talking about is an intergovernmental agreement with Dolores County for their public health department. So technically, it's not on the agenda right now. Are you going to be here tomorrow morning?
that's why I'm asking, do you want me to come over for that? Travis is nodding his head yes, so.
If it wouldn't
Yeah.
be like
Yeah,
hardship, I
what
think it
time,
would be helpful.
do you know what time? I didn't look at, I don't know where it is on the agenda.
It's under new business.
So is that towards the end, or, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, but it could go relatively quickly.
so TBD?
because We only have two issues in planning tomorrow.
Did you hear me? I said, so TBD?
TBD. Be here at 9 o'clock.
You know my next one of these is gonna have to
Yeah, I
happen.
know.
Okay.
I could see that one coming. I could see it coming a mile away.
Okay, I'll just kind of follow as much as I can in the meeting. Travis, text me when you give me 10 minutes to get over here. Okay,
Social services may take a little bit.
okay. I haven't even looked at it,
Got
so,
one coming.
okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our replacement bids for heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. Mr. Sattler.
All right, so, is that on?
I think it's on.
We sent out 3 different RFPs, one for each building that we're replacing units on. There's 8 in total. I contacted the 3 low bidders on what units they were gonna supply. They're all, if it's a train unit currently on the building, it's a train that they're replacing it with. And, at the sheriff's department, they're carriers, and they're replacing them with carriers also. I didn't want them replacing with name brand, and then somebody else has some off-brand unit, so I want to verify what they were replacing with. So if we go with each low bidder, you'll have 3 different contractors. If you want to take the low bidder for total package for all 3 RFPs, that would be Comfort Air. But that bottom dollar amount on the left side there is, oh, I don't have it on there. But low bid for the RFBs would be $87,556.62. Which is quite a bit of money difference if you go with Comfort Air as being the low bidder for all
So let's see,
the
that's
units.
What, scroll down, Travis, I must be missing something here, no?
3,000 and so 4,000.
I think I just have it on mine. I didn't put it on the
Oh, okay.
one going up there.
Cause I'm
but
like, I'm not,
I did total it up. If you take the low bidder for all three, it'd be 87,556.62.
Yeah. About 8,000
Yeah, so it'd be
difference.
as one across the board. Yeah, I see what you're saying now,
Yeah.
okay.
If we took three
Three separate.
individuals and as opposed to a single, it'd cost us about $8,000 more, give or take.
Have we worked with all of these people? Urban,
We've worked with all of them, but the integrated services 3R of the low bidders.
where are they from?
Up around Denver somewhere.
Where at?
Up around Denver.
Holy cow, and they're lower than,
Yeah.
that seems. So, GARS is local, Farmington Heating is local. Where's Urban County Services?
Hesperus.
He's out of Hesperus.
Hesperus? Yeah, that's just what I was gonna ask, it's 2% on this big of a value,
Yeah.
or 5%?
I'm inclined just to go with the one supplier. I mean, they're here in town, and has to have some kind of value.
That's what I was gonna say, if we look at our purchasing, I think there's a,
Yeah.
it goes by dollar values. I think would be like at 2%, Travis? Is that what you're looking at, the local preference? It goes like 50,000 to 100,000.
Yeah.
It graduates. We can look it up later. We can make this decision. But this is what you've highlighted. These are your recommendations as the lowest bidder, unless we can go with one, and then it would be depending on the purchasing
Yeah.
procurement policy.
Yeah.
And you've checked all of these guys out, and we've used them all other than the integrated services.
Correct.
So integrated services comes out of Denver, right?
Yeah.
And there was no MOB cost on there, or nothing?
Not on his RFP. That was the bid amount on that one. I don't know if he was,
So what if,
Bidding on
what if a
getting
unit
all
goes down and we
three.
require warranty work? They send somebody out of Denver down here?
I would imagine they would have to.
Yeah.
Well, they may have somebody in Durango.
Yeah.
I mean, just because
They have somebody they can contact and
Yeah,
have them
just 'cause
service their
they're-
stuff.
just the companies out
Sub it
of
out.
Sub it
Denver
out,
doesn't
yeah.
mean
It might
they're
be-
Yeah.
coming out of Denver. They're probably out of
Yeah.
Durango. Okay. All right, anything else? We'll look that up
We'll
through
work it and see
procurement,
what we
and then
can-
we'll make that decision tomorrow, and we'll let you know if it's gonna be 1 or 3. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dustin.
Next up, landfill. Mel. We're gonna talk first about a lease agreement, I guess, equipment.
Yeah, I didn't know if anything had changed on something like that, but Steven had asked me if I'd send it up to you, but normally we don't send that up for you. It's something we do every year.
Yeah, so, sorry, sorry to interrupt, Mel, I didn't mean to, but.
Yeah, no problem.
I had just been emailing with Mel, and he had sent me this. And so, having had the opportunity to talk to Mel on the phone now, I'm not sure this needs approval by the board. Sounds like this is something that's already budgeted in Mel's budget as part of the operations of the landfill. So I had, without understanding the whole context, I had said, oh, we better get this on the agenda so we can get this rolling, but I don't think it actually needs board approval. I think this is something Mel can handle just as an internal operation of the landfill that's already been budgeted for. So I think we're good on this item.
Okay.
The issue with the shredder is we're down to one company that we can rent from. There's two machines that work for us at the landfill, which is a DopStat and a TANA machine. The TANA machine we had used 2 years ago. We got it out of Humdinger Equipment in Texas. And it's a great machine, did everything we needed to do. We can shred 2 different sizes of materials with it real easy. The other one being DopStat that we rented from Wagner Equipment, they sold it. The only machine that can work for us at the landfill, and we've tried others, is the TANA. And now thankfully, Four Rivers has bought out Hanan and Durango, and we can rent it locally.
Okay.
So all that paper was that I sent Stephen is a commitment that we're gonna rent the machine. So they can get it shipped up. It's in Hobbs right now on a job. It'll be up this week. They've got a truck headed down there this afternoon to pick it up. I just gotta get that over to them, and I've already emailed Bentley to send Four Rivers our current insurance for the actual rental agreement, which I'll send over to you as soon as I get it, which will probably be tomorrow.
Great.
So that's where we're at on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, let's talk about the coalition for the landfill methane rulemaking. Actually did have a conversation at CCI last week with Mesa County's attorney. So like Mel has already presented in here a couple weeks ago, this is part of CDPHE's new methane monitoring systems of what they're wanting to be installed at the landfills. I think Mesa County is leading it up, like you said, Stephen, and they're just asking people to join as part of the coalition, whether it's, hopefully everybody signatures will be on there, but also to some monetary contributions too to help fight this, because it sounds like they're gonna actually hire an outside firm
Yes.
to actually coordinate this and put this thing together to move it forward. So I did, while I was up there talking to him, that's why I was texting you, Mel, because I was in 3 different conversations, and I had asked Mel specifically, I said, you know, what kind of money do you think you have in your budget that we could kind of
I kind of misspoke on that. I should have put in there whatever we need to get this thing taken care of.
well, your number was a number. Like I said, I needed something to get started with. So Mel basically had said 10 grand at that point in time. So, you know, obviously, I think Mesa County is going to lead it up, and not that we want to just say, hey, we'll sign a piece of paper and not contribute to it, because it is going to affect us significantly if this thing does go through. But what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, obviously, I think we can
Yeah.
start with the 10. Is there?
Could I just give a little more context
Sure.
too before we turn it over? So, when we had talked about this last, just a couple of weeks ago, you know, we had talked about how it's going to impact our landfill, that we're really concerned about a lot of the proposed parts of the rule, of which there are some different ones that I think each present their own issues. And so what Mesa County is trying to head up, along with Garfield County, is trying to increase how effective we can be as participants in this rulemaking process by forming this coalition of public entities that own landfills. So I think when I talked to the Mesa County attorney up at the conference, we're at something like 18 of the 64 counties that had signed up, that had, you know, given
They
an
have,
initial.
I think there's more that have, some of those that were not in that meeting due to circumstances beyond the control have now been allowed to join us.
Oh, good.
So I think there's 4 or 5 more.
Okay, even better. So we're trying to present like a unified position as public entities, and we are talking about going out and getting outside counsel who's very familiar with this rulemaking process. Probably the best person you could have to be working with for this kind of rulemaking, very deep understanding of how these rules get made. And so what the ask is of the counties who want to participate at this point is a pledge to cover, sort of like your share of the cost as you can. And there's 3 different levels. I think it's up to $10,000 is like the bronze. They made this up basically for us, but there's like the bronze level, and then the silver level is like $10,001 to $20,000. And if you pledge more than $20,000 up to $30,000, that's like the gold level, and you're guaranteed a spot on the steering committee, which is kind of who's going to be leading this effort among the counties. So based on my discussion with Mel certainly would like to be part of the steering committee. I do think it's also fair to say Mesa County seemed to have a very similar position as what we had discussed as far as our major concerns. It seemed like they understood Montezuma's concerns very well. Is that fair?
That's fair. The only difference between us really and Mesa County is Mesa County has already installed a gas collection system. And it took them 3 years to get it put in. And it's very expensive, as you all know. That's the only difference. Coming up, just so y'all know, coming up in 2026, I have to do a tier 2 testing for methane at the landfill. It's an every 5-year event that we did in 2021, and it shows where we have methane and how much. So on an EPA level, we're at 3, and they require 34 to put in a gas collection system. We'll know more about what's happening next year. But this rule, as I tried to explain last time, if they follow it, they're going to make us put in a gas collection system based on waste in place, whether we produce methane or not. So, but as far as us and Mesa County, we're extremely similar. The intermediate cover alone cannot, it's not feasible.
Yeah.
Practical, feasible, however you want to put it. It's just, they can't do it, we can't do it. There ain't enough compost in the state of Colorado to do what they want to do. Not to mention the water and stuff we'd have to get to do this.
So I think we've all agreed that joining the coalition and obviously being the representative is something that we're going to do. I think we've already made that decision 3 weeks ago. Now it's just really is the contribution, I guess that's why I'm starting with the numbers. Where do we want to,
Well,
what do you think?
in my opinion, I'll give you the 10,000. It's probably going to run into more than that down the road. This is going to get an expensive lawsuit. But like Stephen pointed out, the firm that they're hiring, the guy that is going to be doing this, worked for CDPHE in their quality division. He knows what he's doing to help fight us on this.
So I guess where I'm headed is, can we look through any other discretionary funds that we can at least match? I don't know if we can do that legally.
Well, I think
I
if he
mean-
doesn't have it in his budget, because it's an enterprise, we'd have to loan it, whatever we have.
Correct.
If we
I
wanted to
think-
go over, we'd have to loan it.
I think the
Financially,
10,
right now, we're fine.
I think the
postponed
10,000
lower.
you said you had,
Huh?
the 10,000 in the
That's not a
conversation.
problem.
Yeah, that's not an issue.
No.
But I'm just saying to help, to match it, because it's going to affect all of Montezuma County if this
Yes.
thing happens.
Oh.
Do we
I'm up for a fight.
So,
Do we look
yeah,
at
and
the other numbers to see if we can match that to
And
do?
we might have some
220?
in the commissioner's professional services.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't,
And at this point, it's just a pledge should,
Right.
and the idea is we're going to share the costs as they arise up to the amounts everyone's pledged, and hopefully that gets us to the finish line. It's kind of the idea. So, I mean, we need to get back to them on this by June 13th, which I think is this Friday,
Yep.
with our pledge amount and our top 3 things that we want to, focus on in our,
I sent you the email with my,
okay,
and Travis had it.
all
Both
right.
versions.
Oh, I remember that now, yep.
I think we can look at the numbers a little bit more this afternoon. We can make the decision tomorrow, but at least we have the 10, I think. And we'll see what we can do to maybe at least try to match that. I'm not gonna say we can or we can't, but we'll look at the numbers. We'll make that decision tomorrow, but it was a place to start with the conversation to have that in place, so.
so you know, I've postponed putting an RFP out on the loader, depending on what's going on with this. And we're renting that shredder because I've got to get this done to keep us in compliance with the state.
Okay.
We'll be getting it for a month.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mel.
Thanks, Mo.
Travis, talk to us about the EagleView. Stephen, I'm sure you've seen this, so.
Yeah. So I'm going to present this for Leslie. We've talked about this before. This is the EagleView software and flyover, and they are ready to go. We had some back and forth as it related to the contract, which Stephen could talk about. However, we do have funding available in capital to provide for the first year, and then she's increased or including the cost in her budget for following years. So we should be all right as far as it relates to funding of this software. And what they'll do is, as soon as I talked to her last week, as soon as we get this approved, we'll send the contract over, and they're ready to fly. They're ready to fly the county and get the software up and running.
Will it be effective? Because we're pretty leafed out now. I mean, we're,
They said it will be just
Okay.
fine, yeah.
I mean, there are gonna be some things that are gonna be shadowed or hidden, but
right.
I think as long as they continue to fly, it's gonna be fine. And we talked about this 6 weeks ago?
Yeah.
8 weeks ago?
Yeah, I had asked that we postpone it basically because I think they kind of sent us the wrong version of the contract in a way because they've worked with other counties. They know the limitations we have as far as multi-year appropriations of money. And so ultimately they sent us what I think is the right version of the contract that I imagine they use with other public entities that have to follow the kind of rules that we do. And so now we have a legally permissible contract for this service.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Question? Okay. Very good. We'll deal with that tomorrow too. Social services, Ms. Kelly. Policies, discussion.
And other things, right?
Yeah, and
The
other
ones?
things.
And,
Okay.
and
You got a lot of things.
whatever you want,
Anything?
whatever you want,
Where do you guys want to start?
at the top.
Great. I'm going to start with the Anschutz grant request. So Anschutz is a foundation. They do provide services, specifically basic need grants for aging population. I'd like to submit a grant for $10,000 for general operating. There's no match required, just reporting on our end of things. It is due July 3rd, and so I'm hoping to get it out by next week.
Questions?
No.
Okay, next.
Next, I have our confidentiality policy. So this is that big, long document. Consumer information sharing among employees, customer confidentiality outside the workplace setting, and PHI disclosure. This is a really, really long policy. It covers every single department within the department, division within the department, so that's 6. It really goes through and outlines what each department's division's obligations are as far as confidentiality, and the specific law. The back 2 pages are just references to each of the standards. And then I have a formal, they signed it, I train on it annually, and then they'll sign it. It'll go into their personnel file. Because the confidentiality rules are so extensive and vary between each department, each division.
So, Stephen, the PII on their policy, how does that differ from the PII that we did not sign?
Yeah, I remember that. That was specifically about something through the health department.
Correct.
And there
but
was some language in there about that the county, it was relating to something about immigration status, I think is what I remember. But that was in the context of the, obligations the county has as it related to money that was coming in through the health department. Obviously, in a different context, social services departments deal with the people's PII in a lot of different ways, depending on the work that they're doing. And so the employees, doing this work, that's all required, that certain information needs to be kept confidential. It's the law. I would say it's not related at all to that statement, basically, that the state had asked the county to sign. These are different obligations in a different context. Even with that document that the county didn't sign, my impression was we all agreed we still had to follow confidentiality laws, right? So this is
So
in a
this is
different context.
Related, but not related.
So it's not, and on page 2 of this policy, you'll see that PII and PHI are actually defined, and what it means is that my staff across all boards who are dealing and handling PII, specifically those things, may not release that information under any circumstances. And then PHI really goes into substance abuse, mental health, treatment of a condition, which some of our departments do handle pretty routinely, and also that information may not be released.
Okay.
This, the big point of this was to define how we interact with our customers outside of these walls, because it was coming up often in which we needed to have a very clear policy on what that looks like when we're not in this building.
Okay, next.
Next, we have the falsification policy. And so this is a policy based on rules that were passed, which really just outlines what we will do if any of our child welfare or adult protection service caseworkers are falsifying information within either of the databases that are used to track that information. So Trails, which is our child protection information, and CAPS, which is our adult protection information system. This outlines what we will do, what steps we will take, and then potentially the repercussions, to include a referral to a district attorney, law enforcement agency for prosecution.
Okay. Anything to add on that one, Stephen?
No, I guess the only thing I would add is this is downstream of some pretty high-profile instances of caseworker falsification throughout the state. And so it's now made its way back to each, to each county to have some plan in place to address that, and I think this is an appropriate way to do that.
And it goes hand in hand with our continuous quality improvement. Like, how are we ensuring caseworkers are doing what they say? And so we have some different strategies that we just practice that are more of a procedure, not a policy, to ensure that what our team members are telling us is factual.
Okay. Next.
The next policy is the non-discrimination policy, and I whipped this up specifically for senior services. It was required with a grant, and so it just says senior services will not discriminate, and we will follow the law.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. Race, religion, sex, sexual orientation. Okay, right on. Next.
And then last but not least is the IGA. So this is the contract which, if approved, I'll have them put your name on it. My name's on it right now, but I will just tell them if it's approved. So this is a contract that we've had historically with Equifax, and this was the year they were renewing. This is how our eligibility staff find out work information, validate monies, incomes for all of the primary employers in our county. It reduces our workload by about 25%. We don't have to track things down. We don't have to send out multiple letters. We don't have to make multiple requests. We don't have to keep cases hanging for 90 days while we wait for people to give us information. We open it, we send in the work number, we get the information, and we work the case. And so you can see all of the folks that have joined it. Specifically on page 4, what they're asking is that we have a minimum of 11,113 hits. Last year we had 11,800. I'm rounding up. And so, yes, we will hit that We do have a credit. They were billing some twice, they found out last year, so we'll have a credit of 26,940 with the expectation that we have 11,113 hits over the next fiscal year, which we're going to easily do.
Okay. Question?
No.
Okay.
Great. That's
Ms.
it.
Kelly?
Yeah.
The only thing I need is signature pages for each one of your policy for the commissioners.
Okay.
That's all I
Do
need.
you have a,
I can make it and dump it in there if you're good with it.
yeah, if you send it to me, then I can add it to if it's already in existence.
Gotcha.
On a side note, Stephen, did you talk to Travis about the contract? Which is just a side note, because he might meet later today.
I sent him an email, but I haven't talked to him about it.
And I just want to make sure that's done prior to the end. We're going to start closing out our books on July 3rd, 5th. So I want to make sure we're up to date for this fiscal year for allocations.
Right.
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Do you need me here tomorrow?
I don't think so. Pretty straightforward.
Thanks.
If we do, you're not very far away.
I have Senior Services Advisory Board meeting,
We don't need you.
so I won't be back in office until probably 11:30.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you, Kelly. All right, and that is all we have on our agenda. I think I missed nothing, and we are adjourned.